Hi class, this is Marshall Sponder, your lecturer for digital analytics, I should say. Actually, I'm your lecturer for web analytics and web intelligence, but as I teach a number of classes, I'm probably your professor for other things as too, in some cases. Anyway, I wanted to go over the fourth class presentation. I'm going to put this in presentation mode. Hopefully the screen will come back. Now, so this is good. In the previous couple of weeks or lectures, we've had various discussions that you've had to do as a student. Among them, can I find the top 5 people in web analytics who are living in the area that I live in, in this case, New York, remote area. So if we were holding this in class, I would ask students to tell me. But in this case, I did some myself. And actually, I updated the search recently because it had changed. I don't think LinkedIn might have changed the faceted search that's down here over well, I can't even see where my mouse is anymore. But in any case, I was able to easily find 5 or more, or hundreds of people in the area where I live, or for that matter, almost anywhere. And as you see, I can also refine by the keyword over here, title as analyst. Now, one thing I want to point out is that if you don't have LinkedIn Premium, you're not going to be able to always do this search this way. You'll still be able to get the results, though. You may just not be able to hone in as well. Now, one of the things that I wanted to bring up very briefly now is that there's been some research that really just supports what I thought all along, that some people get into analytics, and most of my students get into it actually in a very non-direct way. In fact, the majority of my students that tell me they want to do web analytics after they listen to and take my courses or find out more about the technology, they find out or realize that they were thinking of doing something else, and then they ended up wanting to do analytics. When we did a research using LinkedIn to see exactly what people did, in their previous jobs, a lot of them came from strong language backgrounds and humanities backgrounds that did analytics. It was kind of interesting because it kind of led me to believe that a lot of what a web analyst does, or digital analyst does, is communications based. And so if you don't communicate well, then it's going to be hard to meet with people, get information, communicate, get requirements for KPIs, convey reports, and all that. So it seemed as if the communication skills and other diverse skills actually makes you a better analyst. It's ancillary. So that would be the nonlinear path. The linear path is someone that just takes analytics courses straight on, or goes into a computer science analytics program, sort of, because they're kind of like merged even though their approach is different, and just goes directly into it that way. And then there's the parachute, which probably isn't that common anymore, which is just someone just gets thrown right into it, that never had any, you just get promoted right into a position they have no experience in at all, But that was kind of interesting. This is more for executive positions. Well, anyway, the other discussion we talked about recently was discussion 2, and that was, well, what kind of data would you like to be in possession of? So I think that was discussion 2. We might have changed that, actually. So there's actually a lot of data here. I actually have this in our Digital Analytics for Marketing book. although I changed the chart and made it flat. So there's all kinds of different data, and based on the kind of position you have. So if you look back at the kinds of position titles people had on LinkedIn, and then cross-reference it with the kind of data they might be getting, you'll see that if you're working with internal data, you're going to be probably end up doing one kind of job. If you're going to be working with external structured data, you're probably going to be working sort of in a job that has a different title, and so on. And certainly, as we see here. Another thing is, at least the way the course was, either right now or pretty soon you should be doing a discussion on suitability and the type of data that web analytics could provide. Like, what could our information actually provide? I mean, is this data any good? And the question is it any good? Well, it depends. I mean, how good does it need to be? You know, I mean, the question is, how good is any web analytics data? Is it actually giving us the information from a marketing perspective? And the answer is that depends. If you're looking for intermediate metrics, okay. If you're looking for absolute business metrics, probably not. Not unless you've spent a considerable amount of time merging your business metrics with your web analytics metrics. And that is usually something that most companies don't do. They haven't done that much, or they don't spend that much time invested in it if they really are thinking about it that way. So, so this is the kind of data, getting back from this chart back over here, this is the kind of data that the way I made sense of it, this is like unstructured utility, search terms, financial market data. This is the data, climate data, geo data, blog comments, and so on. That's unstructured external data that needs to be organized. Remember from our first lecture on what is unstructured and structured data. And then we have structured external data such as census data, partner data. Some of the data from geo data is structured. Some social media profiles, that's organized. You can do things with it. Internal data, obviously, if you're working with internal house data such as invoices, call center, contact data, you're probably going to have a job that has something to do with customer in it. You know, some fulfillment thing in it that's going to be involved in it. Yeah, web analytics data is in there too because it's internal data, believe it or not. Now, if we look at the titles, we'll see that unstructured external data, energy analyst, quantitative analyst, business data analyst. So this is just going through the profiles. Pay-per-click analyst, marketing consultant. These were just by putting those terms into, well, I forgot exactly how I got that, but I just pulled this. So you see how unstructured external data gives you things like social media analysts, audience development analysts, right? Now, when you get structured external data, your title becomes a little more general, and it's a little bit more generic, like digital storyteller, you know, business analyst, QA analyst, because the truth is that no one's quite sure what to call it when it's starts getting structured. And then when it's internal data, you notice how the titles change. Now it's sales analyst, senior analyst, web analyst, product manager, product analyst. Well, I mean, you need internal data kind of almost to do that kind of stuff. CRM data analyst, lead data analyst. In other words, you're working with a company's data, so your title. So one way to look at when you're trying to decode LinkedIn or just titles in general is to look at the title and try to imagine what kind of data they might have or what they might be dealing with. Now, both of you by now probably should have, all class members should have been able to get into both Google and Adobe Analytics. And if by this point you can't, and you really need to contact me, because obviously you'll be falling behind, especially if this course is taking place in the summer. You'll be needing to do that. So that's all I have for today. And so cheers. Enjoy your studies in web analytics. Cheers.